If I've said this once, I've said it 1,000 times. And so has Gerald Celente. When the economy's done, when the economy's finished, and they've dragged us along as far as they could, they take you to war. Not a little BS war where we're over in the Middle East looking for these terrorists in caves and Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. I'm talking war. World War I, World War II, and soon to be Iran in World War III. Now, some of you may not know this, but a few years back, the draft law, selective service, if anyone was to get drafted, it used to be between 18 and 24, and I think it was changed to like 18 and 26 years of age. That was the draft age. And I noticed a few years ago they changed it to, I think, 18 to 42 years old as of 2006. 18 years old to 42 years old. Man, that's one hell of a jump for a draft age. Can you imagine how many more people could be drafted by changing the age from 18 to 26 to 18 to 42? So I'm going to read you something by Ken Adachi, dated February 3rd, 2004, from educate-yourself.org. The military draft. A mandatory draft is coming. By the way, I already knew this because the webbot said so. And it has to do with backing up our ally Israel and all of the shills in Congress who are really heavy-duty pushing for the draft when it comes are going to be dual Israeli-American citizens / senators, congressmen, congresswomen that, again, are Israeli and U.S. dual citizens. So naturally, who are they for? Are they for you and me? Or are they for Israel? And it doesn't quite go so well from what I remember the webbot saying. They don't. This last time of trying to push us through war and draft and all that doesn't quite work out so well. So this is from this guy. From 2004. A mandatory draft is coming, and it will come soon. Make no mistake about it. If you have a specialty field, such as healthcare, or even computer skills, such as a degree in computer science, you could be drafted into government service up to the age of 44 years old. You will have no choice in the matter, as the presidential executive order has already been signed and has become the law, without the messy annoyance of congressional voting or debate, of course. The new age limit of conscription will also be pushed up to 36 years, and he says update 42 years now as of 2006, not just 26 years as was the traditional limit. They have now tied in selective service registration with applying for a driver's license in some 34 states so far. One of the articles below touches on staying out of the military based on a claim of conscious or consensuous objector, but you should explore every possible idea to stay out of the meat grinder, not just this traditional technique. Once you are in the military, you are in, and you can't do a damn thing about it. It's a lot harder to get out or avoid being shot once you're standing on foreign soil wearing your battle gear and your spiffy Nazi-style steel helmet taking orders from Sergeant Gung Ho. Even if you register as a consensuous objector, you've still registered. They have your name and all your other vital info in order to seek you out. You also need to explore your avoidance options before they pull off another staged terrorist attack and close the borders and airports. Can you believe this was written in 2004, February 3rd? Someone has been doing their homework immediately after 9/11. I voluntarily joined the military many years ago and thought it was the right thing to do. I love that word. You know I love that word. The right thing to do. Pay that debt. It's the right thing to do, even though they put you in debt that you really didn't want to get into. You Greek people, do the right thing and pay off that debt that you didn't even want. Right. So let me get back on here. I voluntarily joined the military and thought it was the right thing to do. I felt good about it and told others that it was a good way to grow up and see the world. At the time, of course, I thought that the government was legit, that the U.S. was the good guy of the world, and that we were maintaining the peace and preventing the spread of communism, and all of that brainwashing crap that they keep feeding us, generation after generation. Now I know better. The government is in the hands of satanic globalist traitors who are following a script to destroy America and its people from within and without, in order to decimate the only country remaining that could or would offer any real opposition to the one world government takeover. You have to be careful when visiting government websites from your home computer. They undoubtedly keep record of anyone who visits their sites. If you are a person looking to avoid the draft, you are notifying them that you are interested in this topic, along with your computer ID, etc. Even the consensuous objector websites listed below may be covert operations to gather information on draft resistors. One has no way of knowing. What's here? Oh, it's the mail in. So basically, that's basically the end of the article I wanted to read you. The key point of all this is that he sees it too. There's going to be a war. There's going to be a big war. It's already planned. They have already known about it for a long time. All you have, as Gerald Celente says, current events form future trends. So several years ago, what were the current events? Oh, we're changing the draft age from 18 to 24 or 26, whatever, to 18 to, well, he's saying 44 is the technical limit. 18 to 42 or 18 to 44. Why would they do that? Well, we're during the booming, the stock market's going back up. 2004, 2005, and 2006? What? That's absurd. But current events form future trends. So the wise and aware observer would look at that and say, why are they changing the draft age? There's not a war in sight right now. We're at the top of our game. Everything's fine. OJ Step 4 remembered that very clearly, which is why I started off with this article, because me telling you this right now actually didn't have to be done at all. If I didn't know about this, I wouldn't have done this to begin with, but you still would have understood what I really wanted to read you next, why it's pretty disturbing. More disturbing than the National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA, that was recently passed back in, was it December or whatever? But this ties in with what I'm going to read you next about the new executive order that was signed yesterday, March 16, 2012. I love executive orders. No congressional oversight. We don't have to deal with that. I'm the president. I'm the big shot. I'm going to sign this into law. And it's law. Law. I am the law. Forget what movie that was from. I can't remember the name of it. So let me go ahead and close this page out. And keep that in mind that several years ago, they changed the draft age massively to include a lot more people. Oh, so let me go ahead for immediate release. The White House, www.whitehouse.gov, press release. Office of the Press Secretary for immediate release, Executive Order, National Defense Resources Preparedness. National Defense Resources Preparedness. Preparing implies you're doing something in advance for some future thing. Huh. Executive order, national defense, resources, preparedness, by the authority vested in me, blah, blah, blah. Hereby follows such and such. Part 1, purpose, policy, and implementation. Now, I'm going to... Actually, you know what? I was thinking to myself, I'll go ahead and link from my YouTube page to this site. They realize, where did all these hits come from? This guy's YouTube page. Sending people to go look at this act. Nah. If you want to find this executive order, search online, March 16, 2012, National Defense Resources Preparedness. White House should come up. Part 1, Section 101, the purpose. The purpose delegate. I'm not reading all this, but I'm going to read a good portion of it. So get ready for a little bit of a video because it's kind of lengthy. However, as I read this, there are going to be certain things that I say right out of this, word for word, that's going to make you do this. Wonder why they're doing that. That's interesting. Oh, that too. Wow. Huh. And you're going to come to the conclusion during portions of this, me reading this to you, that we're going to be going to war, big time war, sometime in the near future. Does that mean next week, next month, 6 months? Maybe. Next year? Maybe. For God's sakes, they changed the draft age several years ago. We haven't gone to war since. Having said that, looking at the March 20th, 19th and 20th, hashing out, as I said in the other video I did yesterday, hashing out of the Greek credit default swaps insurance to, the derivatives crisis. You got the guy from Goldman Sachs stepping down. He left his massive letter that crapped on Goldman Sachs why he's leaving. He was in charge of the derivatives division. You got the CME group. We're pulling out of the derivatives market. We're the biggest market participant, blah, blah, blah. But we're going to pull out now. Huh. Really? So, when they've done everything they can do, the economy's in the tank, they take you to war. And when they take you and I to war, whoever we go to war against has to pay for that. So their economy is going to be destroyed. Our economy is already destroyed. We're just fluffing everything up as if it's not. Again, we have a $16 trillion debt. Cannot, will not ever be paid. We will default on that. As Ben Bernanke said in 2002, I will devalue the dollar as a final step. He's going to do it. Take it to the bank. But while they do that, and we're about to go to war, people are going to be worried about the war probably more than the dollar. At the same time, I think because they're going to be hammering us with a lot of stuff quickly, one after another, it's too fast for people to grasp. Any change throughout history ever for a population to deal with that happened too rapidly always resulted in a civil uprising. That was most of the time violent and guns and shooting and revolution, that kind of thing. Anytime a society or paradigm, whatever, we'll call it a society, because that's really a more accurate word, experienced change, whatever the change was. See, remember when this big change that came? Slaves. We're all allowed to have slaves. And then the South wants them, the North doesn't want them. Big change, too fast. Too much to deal with. It resulted in war. Civil war. The revolution, technically. So, there's a lot of examples in history of the elite putting too much change. That's why you'll notice in America over the last 100-something year, 100 years or so, they would do a little executive order here, little pass this in Congress over here, change this little regulation over here, right? Just settle little. Most people aren't even paying attention. Some people see that one thing, hey, that pissed me off. What are you guys doing? But it's not enough to make you really do something. Why'd they do that? Why'd they make that law? Whatever. Nothing ever came of it. It's there on the books and whatever. And then 10 years later, another thing pisses you off. But that was 10 years from the last one. But if they did all these things in a row, in a very short amount of time, it will result in people not being able to deal with it. Their society, their paradigm shifting too rapidly for them to grasp. They don't like it. It's too fast. It's too much. And they revolt. Happens every damn time. This time won't be any different. Dang. That's good stuff. That is good stuff. However, I already drank it, and this is reverse osmosis water from my sink, which tastes just as good. Now, let me get back to Executive Order, National Defense Resources Preparedness. Delegates authority and addresses national defense resources policies and programs under the Defense Production Act of 1950 as amended the Act. Section 102. Policy. The United States must have an industrial and technological base capable of meeting national defense. Substitute that word national defense for war. In case you can't wrap, they're using these little terms. National defense, we always use that word, national defense. We haven't had to defend against anything. So remove that word. Whenever I say national defense, I'm going to try to remember to say war. The United States must have an industrial and technological base capable of meeting national defense, war, requirements and capable of contributing to the technological superiority of its national defense equipment in peacetime and in times of national emergency. The domestic, industrial, and technological base is the foundation for national defense preparedness. What is that word again? Prepared implies doing something in advance for something else that's expected. The authorities provided in the Act shall be used to strengthen this base and to ensure it is capable of responding to the national defense needs of the United States. Section 103, General Functions. Executive departments and agencies responsible for plans and programs relating to national defense as defined in Section 801J of this order, or for resources and services needed to supply such plans and programs shall A. Identify requirements for the full spectrum of emergencies, including essential military and civil demand. B. Assess on an ongoing basis the capability of the domestic, industrial, and technological base to satisfy requirements in peacetime and times of national emergency, specifically evaluating the availability of the most critical resource and production sources, including subcontractors and suppliers, materials, skilled labor, and professional and technical personnel. C. Be prepared in the event of a potential threat to the security of the United States to take actions necessary to ensure the availability of adequate resources and production capability, including services and critical technology for national defense requirements. D. Improve the efficiency and responsiveness of the domestic industrial base to support national defense requirements. You mean like in World War II when all these factories that used to produce meaningful goods were converted into wartime facilities to create airplane parts and tank parts? Maybe. And E. Foster cooperation between the defense and commercial sectors for research and development and for acquisition of materials, services, components, and equipment to enhance industrial base efficiency and responsiveness. Section 104, Implementation. A. The National Security Council and Homeland Security Council, in conjunction with the National Economic Council, shall serve as the integrated policy-making forum for consideration and formulation of national defense resource preparedness policy, and shall make recommendations to the President on the use of authorities under this Act. B. The Secretary of Homeland Security shall 1. Advise the President on issues of national defense resource preparedness and on the use of the authorities and functions delegated by this order. 2. Provide for the central coordination of the plans and programs incident to authorities and functions delegated under this order, and provide guidance to agencies assigned functions under this order, developed in consultation with such agencies. And 3. Report to the President periodically concerning all program activities conducted pursuant to this order. C. The Defense Production Act Committee. You mean we're creating another committee? Expansion of government again? Yeah. The Defense Production Act Committee, described in Section 701 of this order, shall 1. In a manner consistent with Section whatever, advise the President through the Assistant of the President and National Security Advisor, the Assistant to the President for Homeland Security and Counterterrorism, and the Assistant to the President for Economic Policy on the effective use of the authorities under this Act, and 2. Prepare and coordinate an annual report to the Congress pursuant to Section blah blah blah. D. The Secretary of Commerce, in cooperation with the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of Homeland Security, and all other agencies shall 1. Analyze potential effects of national emergencies on actual production capability, taking into account the entire production system, including shortages of resources, and develop recommended preparedness measures to strengthen capabilities for production increase in national emergencies, and number 2, perform industry analysis to assess capabilities of the industrial base to support the national defense and develop policy recommendations to improve the international competitiveness of specific domestic industries and their abilities to meet national defense program needs. Part 2, priorities and allocations. A. The authority of the President, blah, 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 delegated the following agency heads. 1. The Secretary of Agriculture with respect to food resources, food resource facilities, livestock resources, veterinary resources, plant health resources, and the domestic distribution of farm equipment and commercial fertilizer. 2. The Secretary of Energy with respect to all forms of energy. 3 is the Secretary of Health. 4, the Secretary of Transportation. 5, the Secretary of Defense. 6, the Secretary of Commerce. With respect to all other materials, services, and facilities, including construction materials. B, the Secretary of each agency delegated authority under subsection A of the section Resource Department shall plan for and issue regulations to prioritize and allocate resources and establish standards and procedures by which the authority shall be used to promote the national defense under both emergency and non-emergency conditions. Each secretary shall authorize the heads of other agencies as appropriate to place priority ratings on contracts and orders for materials, services, and facilities needed in support of programs approved under Section 202 of this order. C, each resource department shall act as necessary and appropriate upon request for special priorities assistance as defined by Section 801I of this order, or is that L, in a time frame consistent with the urgency of the need at hand. In situations where there are competing program requirements for limited resources, the resource department shall consult with the secretary who made the required determination under Section 202 of this order. The secretary shall coordinate with and identify for the resource department which program requirements to prioritize on the basis of operational urgency in situations involving more than one secretary, blah, 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 whatever. D, if agreement cannot be reached between, blah, blah, blah. E, the secretary of each group shall make the finding required under section, whatever, the finding. Okay, that's nothing. Let's go down a little more. Determinations, except as provided Section 201E of this order, the authority delegated by Section 201 of the order may be used only to support programs that have been determined in writing as necessary to appropriate and promote the national defense. A, by the Secretary of Defense. B, Secretary of Energy. C, Homeland Security. Section 203, maximizing domestic energy supplies. The authorities of the President under Section whatever are delegated to the Secretary of Commerce, with the exception that the authority to make findings that materials, including equipment, services, and facilities, are critical and essential, whatever, is to delegate to the Secretary of Energy. Chemical and biological warfare, which is Section 204. The authority of the President, whatever. Let's go down a little bit. Try to get some of the juicy stuff. Expansion of productive capacity and supply. Section 301. loan guarantees. A. To reduce current or projected shortfalls of resources, critical technology items, or materials essential for the national defense. The head of each agency engaged in procurement for the national defense is authorized, pursuant whatever, to guarantee loans by private institutions. Any of those agencies I mentioned earlier, several of them, have the authority under this subsection to guarantee loans given out by private institutions, such as JP Chase, Citigroup, Bank of America, the club. They will guarantee the loans. So for example, we need a company that can manufacture something for this wartime thing. Oh, let's call one of our club friends and hook them up with a no-bid contract on this particular need. And what they're going to charge is going to be an arm and a leg. But in order to get this company up and running and expand its capabilities, it needs a massive loan. So Citigroup or JP Chase or Goldman Sachs, whoever, you guys, we got a nice guy over here that needs a loan. And we back the loan 100% by the U.S. government. So that if at any time this place goes under, after the war, whatever it is, and they still owe all this massive amounts of money back to the bank because we had a quick and brutal war, whatever, and it's over now, it didn't last anywhere near any kind of real length of time so that this company can actually get its costs back and start making money. No, you're done. The war's over. You owe Bank of America or Citigroup or whoever billions of dollars, whatever it is, hundreds of millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, whatever it equals. We know you didn't have it in the beginning, which is why we wrote this executive order. You are off the hook. The banks, well, not necessarily you. You're going to go bankrupt. Have a nice day. Get out of here. But the federal government will now make the banks whole again. So it's another banker bailout, so to speak, that's going to be coming. And they'll just say, well, we got to guarantee these loans because we're in a time of war. And everyone will probably just say, oh, okay. Next, Section B. Each guaranteeing agency is designated and authorized to, 1, act as fiscal agent in the making of its own guarantee contracts, and in otherwise carrying out the process of Section 301, and number 2, contract with any Federal Reserve Bank to assist the agency in serving as fiscal agent. Interesting. C. Terms and conditions of guarantees under this authority shall be determined in consultation with the Secretary of Treasury. Oh, you mean little Timmy Geithner, who was head of the Federal Reserve of New York Bank, who's one of the boys. Yeah. Terms and conditions of guarantees will be determined in consultation with the Secretary of Treasury. Little Timmy Geithner. And the Director of the Office of Management and Budget, or OMB. The guaranteeing agency, which is any of the agencies, they now all have this authority to guarantee loans, is authorized following such consultation to prescribe 1, either specifically or by maximum limits or otherwise rates of interest, guarantee, and commitment fees, and other charges which may be made in connection with such guarantee contracts. You mean, we need the same facility I was telling you about a second ago in my example. We need these parts. We're going to give you a massive loan. And we've discussed it with little Timmy Geithner that we can rape you. We can rape you on insurance or on interest rates because that was the agreement. And it gets even better. We know you're not going to last. You'll be used for a short while. Our boys who get the no-bid contracts, you'll be able to last. But everyone else, like these old factories from World War II that I was telling you about earlier, that were converted from making car parts or whatever into making bombs and airplane wings and all these wartime materials, right? You guys are going to end up going under. But at these massive interest rates, we allowed the bank to charge you because they got the approval from little Timmy Geithner. We now owe, the American government now owes this bank because we, through the Secretary of Bozo-ness, or the other Secretary of Bozo-ness 2, or the other Secretary of Bozo-ness 3, any of the secretaries, half a dozen or more, guarantee this and had the authority to guarantee it. We've got to pay them with the interest that's due to them, which is raping interest, but it was in the contract. It's already, we can't get out of it. Okay. And 2, regulations governing the forms and procedures which shall be uniform to the extent practicable to be utilized in connection therewith. Section 302, loans. To reduce current or projected shortfalls of resources, critical technology items, or materials essential for the national defense, the head of each agency engaged in procurement for the national defense is delegated the authority of the president under section blah 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 to make loans thereunder. They can now make loans. Terms and conditions of loans under this, again, same with little Timmy Geithner, must go to him first. Section 303, additional authorities. A, to create, maintain, protect, expand, or restore domestic industrial base capabilities essential for the national defense. The head of each agency engaged in procurement for the national defense is delegated the authority of the president, blah, 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 to make provision for purchases of or commitments to purchase an industrial resource or a critical technology item for government use or resale, and to make provision for the development of production capabilities and for the increased use of emerging technologies and security program applications, and to enable rapid transition of emergency technologies. B, materials acquired under Section 303 of the Act that exceed the needs of the programs under the Act may be transferred to the National Defense Stockpile if, in the judgment of the Secretary of Defense as the National Defense Stockpile Manager, such transfer are in the public interest. So all of you companies, well, maybe not all of you companies, but our boys that we gave the no-bid contracts to, you raped and pillaged the American people via what you charge the government for these little products, like you always do. Massive amount of raping. And you produced 10 times more than we needed. We'll pay you for those. We'll also pay you the top dollar raping fee that you want, that you got the whole time. 10 times the amount we needed. Rather than make you go bankrupt like we did little mom and pop over here in this example, you get to keep all that stuff, sell it to us, we'll take it and put it in our national defense stockpile, which basically means it's going to sit and rot in some kind of abandoned military base field somewhere and never get used again. Kind of like the billion-something dollars we spent on bird flu vaccine when the World Health Organization a couple years ago declared a worldwide level 6, highest level ever declared worldwide pandemic is a level 6. They declared it. Countries around the world were stockpiling these things. Come get your vaccine shots. No one wanted to come get them. Hardly anyone got them. We had a massive extra stockpile that went to waste. But we already paid for it. So now all that bird flu crap is gone. Billions of dollars? Yeah, see ya. And it was a lie because there was no damn pandemic. The World Health Organization just showed its cards. It just showed its hand as a complete fraudulent organization. You don't declare a level 6 worldwide pandemic on bird flu or on anything and then have nothing happen and pretend like you're reputable after that. Like, we're going to pay attention to you next time. Anyways, next. Subsidy payments. To ensure the supply of raw or non-processed materials from high-cost sources, or to ensure maximum production or supply in any area at stable prices of any material in light of a temporary increase in transportation costs, the head of each agency engaged in procurement for the national defense is delegated authority to make subsidy payments after consultation with little Timmy Geithner. Of course, Section 305, determinations and findings. Pursuant to budget authority approved by an Appropriations Act in advance for credit assistance under Section whatever, and consistent with the Federal Credit Reform Act of 1990, amended, blah, blah, blah. The head of each agency engaged in procurement for the national defense is delegated the authority to make the determination set forth in sections whatever in consultation with the Secretary making the required determination under Section 202 of this order, provide that such determination shall be made after due consideration of the provisions of OMB, blah, 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 and the credit subsidy score for the relevant loan or loan guarantee as approved. B. Other than any determination by the President under Section whatever, the head of each agency engaged in procurement for the national defense is delegated the authority to make the required determinations, judgments, certifications, findings, and notifications defined under such and such in consultation with the Secretary making the required determination of this order. Section 306, Strategic and Critical Materials. The Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of Interior, in consultation with the Secretary of Defense as National Defense Stockpile Manager, are each delegated the authority of the President to encourage the exploration, development, and mining of strategic and critical materials and other materials. Wonder what they're going to be mining. 307. Substitutes. The head of each agency engaged in procurement for national defense delegated the authority to make provision for the development of substitutes for strategic and critical materials. Blah, blah, blah. Government-owned equipment. The head of each agency engaged in procurement has the power to A. Procure and install additional equipment, facilities, processes, or improvements to plants, factories, and other industrial facilities owned by the federal government, and to procure and install government-owned equipment in plants, factories, or other facilities owned by private persons. Let me read that one again. The head of each agency has the power to procure and install additional equipment, facilities, processes, or improvements to plants, factories, and other facilities owned by the federal government, and to procure and install government-owned equipment into plants, factories, or other industrial facilities owned by private persons. Oh, you have some factory warehouse space over there? Yeah, now you're going to take our equipment, we're putting it into your facility, and you're going to start creating such and such and working. Interesting. B. Provide for the modification or expansion of privately owned facilities, including the modification or improvement of production processes when taking actions under section blah, blah, blah. Provide for the modification or expansion of privately owned facilities. Interesting. Now they're going to tell you what you can do and what you're going to do with your facility. Section 309. The Defense Production Act Fund. Secretary of Defense is designated as Defense Production Act Fund Manager in accordance with whatever, and shall carry out the duties of the Act in consultation with the agency heads having approved and appropriated funds for project under Title III of the Act. Section 310. Critical items. The head of each agency engaged in procurement for the national defense is delegated the authority to take appropriate action to ensure that critical components, critical technology items, essential materials, and industrial resources are available from reliable sources when needed to meet defense requirements during peacetime, graduated mobilization, and national emergency. Appropriate action may include restricting contract solicitations to reliable sources. You know what that means. What I just said a second ago. Oh, you remember the club. Oh, Halliburton. Right? Oh, our boys. No bid contracts. Why? Well, because they're reliable. We determined, with a lot of millions of dollars in my back pocket that he just gave me, I've determined he's the reliable source. The rest of you, I know you can do it 14 times cheaper. 14 times cheaper than he can. But he's so reliable, we're just going to have to pay that money. That's what that just said. Appropriate action may include restricting contract solicitation to reliable sources restricting contract solicitations to domestic sources, stockpiling critical components, and developing substitutes for critical components or critical technology systems or items. Section 311, strengthening domestic capability. The head of each agency in procurement, blah, 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 with the national defense, to utilize the authority of Section 3, Title 3 of the Act or any other provision of law to provide appropriate incentives to develop, maintain, modernize, restore, or expand the productive capabilities of domestic resources for critical components, critical technology items, materials, and industrial resources essential for the execution of the national security strategy of the U.S. Section 312, modernization of equipment. They guaranteed to purchase of or lease of advanced manufacturing equipment and any related services with respect to any such equipment for purposes of the Act. In considering Title III projects, the head of each agency engaged in procurement for the national defense shall provide strong preference for proposals submitted by a small business supplier or subcontractor in accordance with whatever. And let's skip a part here. Part 5, employment of personnel. National Defense Executive Reserve. Section 501. A. In accordance with Section whatever, there is established in the executive branch a National Defense Executive Reserve, or the NDER, composed of persons or recognized expertise from various segments of the private sector and from government, except full-time federal employees, for training for employment in executive positions in the federal government in the event of a national defense emergency. I wonder if that was Obama's. Remember that speech he gave? We need a civilian defense agency that's just as powerful, just as strong, just as well funded as the, national security agency or whatever he was saying. Remember that? Is that what I just tasted there a little bit as I read that? I'm not sure. B. The Secretary of Homeland Security shall issue necessary guidance for the NDER program, including appropriate guidance for establishment, recruitment, training, monitoring, and activation of NDER units, and shall be responsible for the overall coordination of the NDER program. The authority of the President will be to determine periods of national defense emergency is delegated to the Secretary of Homeland Security. So we have the NDER, which is the National Defense Executive Reserve Unit, as they just called it. I think that's exactly what that is. C. The head of any agency may implement Section 501A of this order with respect to NDER operations in such agency. D. The head of each agency with an NDER unit may exercise the authority under Section 703 of the Act, such to employ civilian personnel when activating all or part of its NDER unit. The exercise of this authority shall be subject to the provisions of 501E and F of this order and shall not be redelegated. E. Head of an agency may activate an NDER unit in whole or in part upon the written determination of the Secretary of Homeland Security that an emergency affecting the national defense exists and that the activation of the unit is necessary to carry out the emergency program functions of the agency. This is exactly what I was just talking about, that he talked about. We need a civilian defense agency that's just as well funded. And so he said that in 2008 or 9, whenever he said it, when he was just becoming president. And here we are in 2012, and this executive order gets created. Interesting. F. Prior to activating the NDER unit, the head of agency shall notify in writing the assistant to the President for Homeland Security and Counterterrorism of the impending activation. Section 502, consultants. The head of each agency otherwise delegated function to employ persons of outstanding experience and ability without compensation and to employ experts, consultants, or organizations. The authority delegated by this section may not be redelegated. Part 6, labor requirements. 601, Section 601, Secretary of Labor. A, Secretary of Labor, blah, shall, 1, collect and maintain data necessary to make a continuing appraisal of the nation's workforce needs for purposes of national defense. Nation's workforce needs for purposes of national defense. Again, this is that NDER or whatever the hell it is, NDER unit. It's what it sounds like to me. 2, upon request by the Director of Selective Service, that's the draft agency, and in coordination with the Secretary of Defense, assist the Director of Selective Service in development of policies regulating the induction and deferment of persons for duty in the armed services. Number 3, upon request from the head of an agency with authority under this order, consult with that agency with respect to 1, the effect of contemplated actions on labor demand and utilization. 2, the relation of labor demand to materials and facilities requirements. And 3, such other matters as will assist in making the exercise of priority and allocations functions consistent with effective utilization and distribution of labor. 4, upon request from the head of an agency with authority under this order, 1, formulate plans, programs, and policies for meeting the labor requirements of actions to be taken for national defense purposes, and 2, estimate training needs to help address national defense requirements and promote necessary and appropriate training programs, and 5, develop and implement an effective labor management relations policy to support the activities and programs under this order, with the cooperation of other agencies as deemed appropriate by the Secretary of Labor, including the National Labor Relations Board, the Federal Labor Relations Authority, the National Mediation Board, and the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service. Boy, that's a lot of agencies that probably don't do anything besides suck off of your or my tax money. B, all agencies shall cooperate with the Secretary of Labor upon request for the purposes of this section, to the extent permitted by law. And then it goes on to list the Defense Production Act Committees, what it's called, which are, if you want to know all the secretaries, there's 17 of them that now have this authority that I've been talking about. Secretary of State, Treasury, Defense, Attorney General, Secretary of Interior, Agriculture, Commerce, Labor, Health and Human Services, Transportation, Energy, Homeland Security, Director of National Intelligence, Director of Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, Chair of Council of Economic Advisors, the Administration of National Aeronautics and Space Administration, and the Administrator of General Services. That's 17 that now have all this power. B, the Director of OMB and the Director of the Office General Provisions. There's a little bit left. I'm done right now. Now I just talked for 41 damn minutes. Actually, plus about 8 minutes on top of that. While I already know these things are coming, and you probably do too, I'd be lying if I still didn't wake up this morning and read that and say that I wasn't shocked. Even after they passed healthcare, even after they passed National Defense Authorization Act, even after they've upped and upped and upped and upped the national deficit constantly, which is out of control, even after all these things, all this other crap going on, even after Fast and Furious, where we're giving guns to Mexican drug lords that come back and kill our guys, our police personnel, law enforcement, and nothing's happening to our Attorney General Eric Holder whatsoever, even though he lied in front of Congress. Even above all that stuff that we've already experienced, which would automatically train us to expect more of that kind of stuff, I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit shocked today as I read that. Doesn't go through Congress. Did not. I mean, how is an executive order law? It's not. I mean, it's not. We have the 3 branches of government. One of those branches only is involved when there's a conflict between the other 2, basically. So we have Congress and we have the president. Laws can only get passed into Congress, through Congress. Yet somehow, for God knows how many years now, decades, There's been one executive order after another. Oh, you can't get through Congress on that? Don't worry about it. Just write an executive order. And if you try to do something, oh, let's sue the president or sue, the administration. Supreme Court, what did you find? Oh, no, he didn't do anything. He has the authority. But everyone who voted yes, 5-4 ruling or whatever it is, right? 5-4 usually. You guys were handpicked by that president, the past president, to be up there, right? Well, yeah. Oh, okay. So all I'm seeing here is history repeating. The governments, not just America, any government at any time in history, as Joe Talente says, will show you what they're doing now. Current events form future trends. And the future trends, just based off of this video thing that I read you today, this executive order, only a damn monkey bozo could not figure out, based off of what I just read you, that we're going to war, and that there's going to be a draft, and that there's going to be the NDER, National Defense, whatever, units to be trained by the military. That is exactly what Mr. President Obama said in his big famous speech a 2-3 years ago, whatever it was, right? 2008 or 2009 when he said it. We need a civilian security force just as powerful, just as well funded. Interesting. And here it is, an executive order for everyone to read. And here I am, to some friends and family members, as this bozo conspiracy guy. Yeah, that old Joe, been talking about this stuff for a few years now. Nothing's ever happened. I don't know about that guy. The numbers I see on TV looks like there's going to be a recovery. It's, it's starting to catch back up, and there will be no recovery whatsoever. There will be an absolute decimation of your American dream, your American lifestyle as you currently know it. And for some of you, it sucks right now. And it's going to suck worse when this goes down. But they can easily take us to this big war. We're all scared. We're in fear. Got this fear going on. We're nervous. What's going on? World War III. What? And I'm telling you right now, as you already know, I don't need to tell you this. There will be an attack on U.S. soil, on a U.S. ship, possibly a very close ally like Israel. Something's going to happen. They're going to blame it on Iran or Syria, however we have to kick this off with the big war. The average person is going to buy it hook, line, and sinker. They're going to be pissed off. Maybe all of those bozos can run down to the recruiter's office like they did on 9/11 to be patriotic because they were so furious that someone attacked us and they felt it was their duty to go defend ourselves. When in fact, it was nothing but a huge lie, as we all know. And they're going to do it again. Why? Joe, how do you know this? JSnip4, how do you know this for sure? Because there are multiple examples in just the last 50 years, 60 years, 100 years, however far you want to go back, of the same damn thing happening over and over and over. And thus far, it has worked every single time. So why wouldn't they do it again when they most need it, especially right now? Big time. So, keep that in mind. It is going to happen, and we are going to get into this war. It's not going to be a little war. It's not going to be a little Iraq invasion, little Afghanistan, Pakistan. It's not going to be none of that crap. It's going to be the big one. How do you know it's going to be the big one this time? Because I just read you the executive order that's prepping the whole damn country to turn into massive facility, production facilities, industrial, and creating wartime equipment and things is industrial. And that's exactly what it's going to be used for. It's in there. It's in the executive order. Why wasn't that stuff put in place back in 2001 when we got attacked by these terrorists? Couldn't that stuff have been back then? We could be using it right now for the last 10, 11 years. We've been in war over there now, right? Those aren't wars. That's nonsense. Those are little skirmishes. That's just flexing our muscle. We're not even doing anything. Chasing terrorists, little cells of people. That's not a war. This is a war, and they need all the manpower, all the civilian power they can get their hands on. Because when they destroy your 401k, they destroy all the money in this country, devalue the dollar, they're going to make sure you're far more concerned about staying alive and not being attacked. You're probably going to hear news, we may have nukes in America while this war is going on. Oh my God. They're going to keep you at the fear level so that you don't sway from the war thing at all, even for a second, to what used to be your 401k, your retirement, the house you used to live in, the job you used to have, your lifestyle being destroyed, going from first world status country to third world status that they're going to take us to. You're going to be far more concerned about staying alive and dealing with the war. So if you want to download this video, by all means do so that you can re-watch it again when this takes place. And a program that I like to use is called Download Helper, and it's for the Firefox browser. Any video site you go to, a little thing blinks up at the top, and you can download the video as soon as you start playing the video. That's all I got for you. Sorry for such a massively long video, but this is of dire importance. They are getting ready, sometime in the near future, to take us to war. Again, last 3 months. Matter of fact, let me just pull up this chart because I didn't talk about this. Over the last year or so, there's been a massive amount of senior level, whatever, executive level resignations of banking and financial institutions, more so than like ever. And in the last 3 months of 2012, we've only been in it for 3 months, those numbers have absolutely skyrocketed. So I'm going to show you from 9/1/2011 to 12/22, well, we'll just call it 2012, the beginning of 2012. And the number, you'd see 1, 2, 10, 15, whatever, and then the number grows to almost 100, about 100 for the year of 2011, you could say. And then as we enter 2012, January, February, and it ends on March 1st. Well, it doesn't actually end. It's probably fairly close to the last few days. That number is up to 350 plus. In the last 3 months, that 100 number that took months and months and months and months to acquire in 2011 to equal 100, we're now at 350. And we're only in the 3rd month of December 2012, and I'm only including 3 months, January, February, March. 350 from the 100. If that's not a telltale sign that the boys, the club, knows the economies of the world are done, their paper Ponzi scheme game is done, they're not going to be sitting as CEO, vice president, member of the board. They're not when this goes down, because they want to be able to stand back and say, I left the company when things were pretty much okay. Then look at the numbers, look at the price of the stock, everything. When I left, everything was cool. Now this new guy's in there. Don't look at me, guys, when people are standing outside of the guy's house ready to burn it down for what they've done in the financial industry to the people. And he's going to try to argue and say, guys, when I left, things were cool. The new CEO was in charge when the ship went down. And the people are going to realize, no, it was all of your reckless policies for the last 15, 20 years plus that did this. You were in charge for the destruction period as far as I'm concerned, and they're going to want to burn his house down. How do I know that? Because the webbot says so. And the webbot also says, we know this high-level banker guy we're looking for, and we know he lives in this housing development. We know this. Fact. The problem is we don't know which house he's in. And it's a massively rich neighborhood. And they decide, let's just burn them all down. These people haven't helped us throughout society. We're the ones who's always struggling. These rich people are sitting over here living the good life. And that's their mentality. That's not my mentality. Because some people will argue, well, maybe they worked for that and deserve to live in a nice neighborhood. And I would have to agree, you could be right. But in a crisis situation, when everyone was struggling, and now they're in a situation where everything's been destroyed in their lives, and they want blood, it's going to be a real easy decision for them, according to the webbot report, to set all these houses on fire and just let the whole damn community burn down. Is that mean it's going to happen? No. Could the webbot be wrong? Yes, it could. But data like that was in the reports a long time ago. It's been in there for a while. That old webbot's funny about those things. It may get the timing of when it thinks it's going to happen off, but when that kind of stuff's in the reports over and over again, it's in there deep back in the old reports, it's almost set in stone that it's going to happen. Problem is, when's it going to happen? I don't really care. That's around the time when that kind of stuff happens that I don't want to be in the city, that I should be in Tennessee or somewhere. Hopefully a neighbor pastured owls. Hopefully we got $300-400 silver at that time. And old J-Step4 is loving life. While everyone else who's not paying attention to his advice, such as getting silver, food storage, gun to protect your family from these idiots that will be out there doing these things, I feel bad for you. As I and other preppers say, if I'm wrong with my thoughts of preparing for some kind of problems like this, if I'm wrong, I have nothing to lose. I have extra food. I have all these other things. I could sell one of my guns or whatever. I like to collect guns. I'm a collector. Not that I have a whole bunch. People, you wouldn't even really argue that I've got like an arsenal. I don't. I have a few guns, just a few. And I don't have massive piles of ammunition. I don't. But if I'm right in why people should be preparing and the things that they should have gotten to prepare, gold or silver, food storage, those are the two critical things. You know, some other stuff. If I'm right, the naysayers, which is everybody else, have everything to lose. If I'm right, I don't have anything to lose because I'm right and I got my preparations. If I'm wrong, I don't have anything to lose. I still have food that was purchased at a price back when food prices were lower than they are today that I can now start eating. I win again. And people say, oh, you're a prep. You guys are preppers. That's dumb. That's stupid. I'm a prepper. Did you just not hear the executive order that I just read you? The government's a prepper. What's the government prepping for? They're prepping for freaking World War III and to destroy the economy and destroy the rest of the world's economy who gets involved in that war because they're going to have to pay for it because they're going to be fighting us. Both parties have to pay for the war. So both parties spend money out of control beyond their means to fight the war, and then they're left in rubble, and then stuff rebuilds. It's just a cycle. Isn't that interesting? War is just a cycle too. But if you know about these cycles and you know about this history, you can prepare to take advantage, not necessarily take advantage, I don't like that word, but prepare for when the cycle kicks in again. Hey, there's a bus coming. I know it comes every day at 12. It doesn't stop for anybody. You better get out of the road. I'm getting out of the road 5 minutes in advance. Everybody else, we're going to stay in the road. That's stupid. That's not, there's no cycles and history. This is America. I'm in America. There's no bus coming to hit me. Boom. And then they're dead. Another bozo sheep out of the way. It's fine with me. Anyways, I got to run. Take care.